You gotta start with it's promo.
So true. I'm Proma,
I'm Radhika,
and
and
together
together
we're
we're Prom
Prom
Red.
Red. It's going well, I think.
Yeah.
And we're here today to talk Oscars shortlist, mainly because India's submission, Homebound, has made the cut.
This is directed and I believe written by Neeraj Ghaywan, and it is based on this image that took India by storm during 2020 during the lockdown. I don't know about you, but I never had seen this image. It never made its way to me specifically through like my internet.
To
Um,
us in our apartment
to
where we
us,
were
and crucially, we
sequestered for months.
were, yes, crucially, we were locked down together at this point in time. The image is of these two men on the side of the street. One is looking sickly, and the other is holding him. And it's a very tender image. And from that, a journalist wrote a New York Times piece about that. And then Neeraj Ghaywan has taken that and created this fictionalized story, but it's taking a lot of those story beats. I just thought it was such a beautiful meditation on like friendship and brotherhood and the way that those things transcend aspects of our culture that are in culture as roadblocks like caste and religion and class and all these things. A really great story of resilience and cried like a baby at the end. Like that's like a testament to the entire craft and like the performances and everything.
Yeah, it definitely drove home how COVID specifically exacerbated all the issues that you mentioned, like class and caste and religion. I knew that India had one of the worst experiences with COVID, like how rampant the virus was and how intense the lockdowns were. This was an element that a lot of people, I think, will not be aware of how it affected the country internally and specific people so much more than others. And in the same way that, we saw in the US that it affected like Black and brown communities more, inevitably disasters like this take a toll on marginalized people. And one thing I really appreciated about Homebound was that while it made that very clear to us, it's not so heavy-handed. There's a few scenes where they do explicitly mention caste or religion, but they're not kind of hammering home the themes. I think the Bollywood impulse certainly is to have your characters, like someone at the end, like the music swells and someone's crying and giving a speech, and they're like, and we must all love each other. No.
We see them go through all these different experiences over the course of the movie of, the discrimination that they're receiving in very like everyday moments of life. And I think it really builds to this moment where when we do see them kind of address those things, it's like powerful and it's cathartic and it feels earned.
And it helps, and I'm sure this was the hook for the New York Times, but then it helps with the film as well, as you mentioned, that theme of friendship and brotherhood, because that is ultimately what you're watching. Like, it isn't just some story about like these hot button issues. It's just the story of these two friends, these two individuals, their specific experience with it, and their relationship to each other, which binds it together so strongly.
I don't know about you. I was like absolutely blown away specifically about Ishan Kathar. Like he's poised to be our breakout potential crossover. I mean, he was on that show, The Perfect.
A suitable boy.
No, he was on A
No?
Suitable Boy, but then he
Oh
was
yeah,
on
he was in The
that
Perfect
A
Couple.
Perfect Couple. I mean, he was barely in it, but he was there with like Nicole Kidman and Megan Fahey,
I
and
forgot.
I think this has been like the best like showcase of his abilities, and it's a much more muted performance than something like The Royals and any of the Bollywood titles that he's been in. There is one scene in this movie that will like absolutely break your heart. Like he is like giving it his all, and I think if Oscar voters were paying any attention, like he would be selling this, like that would be selling the movie more, and he should be in like acting conversations, I think, just like for this mo movie specifically. I don't want to not say that Vishal Dutt was like a huge part of selling this movie. Like I think their chemistry is amazing. I just was like absolutely blown away by the performances. And I don't always say that about Indian movies because I think there is sometimes a tendency to overact.
It's also different kinds of chemistry, right? Like I think you often notice the chemistry between two actors when they're doing fun stuff, when they're like bantering back and forth and they have quick dialogue or like more kind of physicality and like, if they were just like playing fun bros. But they play a lot of serious stuff, a lot of sentimental stuff, a lot of just like quiet and subtle moments, and that still takes building the dynamic and having that bond with each other, which they clearly did.
We've talked a lot like in our group chats, shout out to a squad perhaps, but like we've talked just like in our day-to-day life about Indian films and where they stand on like the global stage. India is like never part of the conversation when it comes to global cinema, like Korean films, Japanese films, other Asian films do break through, but India specifically is usually not in it. There was a lot of controversy last year with India not choosing All We Imagine as Light, which was the Cannes darling and honestly such a beautiful film and so opposite of like the I think the expected sensibilities of an Indian film. And I say that because I think people think of Indian film and they think of Bollywood and it's over the top. It's a celebration, but it's not always like the cinephile's dream of like what a movie. It's not like the most subtle.
I also feel like All We Imagine Is Light was kind of a res not the film itself, but the selection of that film was very much a response to RRR the previous year, which is very big and blockbuster and commercial, but then also didn't lead to more commercial films breaking through, just like, in festivals or in with Western audiences.
Telugu films, Tamil films, like Kannada films, Malayalam films, like everything. Each industry has its own sensibilities, and South Indian films at large. And I guess you could even extend this to Bollywood, but like they are these like over the top celebrations. They do have exaggerated performances and exaggerated visual effects and things like that. And I think I was just so confused as to like why RRR specifically was the one that broke through. The director specifically also broke through in a way. I know I've watched some Western critics kind of go back through his catalog and watch some of his other movies, and Netflix even did a whole docu-series about his rise and kind of put him in conversation with some of these other international directors that we see, like Park Chan-wook and other really acclaimed directors that are always part of the conversation. So I found that interesting that like that door was kind of cracked open, but like Western audiences didn't necessarily like barge through it to like explore what the rest of the subcontinent has to offer in that way.
This isn't an indictment of RRR per se. Like, I was very entertained when I watched the film, but like no more or less than when I watch any kind of commercial Indian film. So why that one specifically? And then again, yeah, why didn't that push the audience to seek out more South Indian cinema, more Telugu cinema, and or more maximalist Indian or global cinema?
Especially as like musicals have kind of come back in Hollywood and like no one does a musical better than Bollywood, I think, like personally.
Yeah. I mean, talking of RRR, it didn't get nominated for Best International Feature at the Oscars, but it did spark this conversation also about the types of Indian films that break through to that category, because it's only happened 3 times that an Indian film has made the actual nominations, like the final five for that category.
And
Those
crucially,
films,
the last time was like 2001.
yeah, and it was Lagan, which is
It's
a very
Bollywood.
commercial film. Yeah, it's very Bollywood. It has the songs. It was like a blockbuster commercial success and also broke through in the awards conversation. So maybe the answer is just like it's totally inconsistent and it's alchemy and it's random.
I think that's like what we'll never know about awards season is like it is that alchemy that you mentioned, like because it's like it's at the end of the day, I don't think it's entirely based on like merit and like talent. Like of course you have to get to a certain point, but then a lot of it is politics of like are you out and about talking to voters? Are you like what campaign are you running? I don't know what that science is. That was not my subject, but um yeah, I mean, it's about the money. It's about who you're talking to. It's about, like, of course, it's about getting people to actually watch the movie and, like, see for themselves. But, like, people have a lot of stuff to watch and a lot of things, going on this season. So it is a little bit of, like, what is the balance and, like, how do you actually get across the finish line? And, like, I don't know the answer to that. I think Lagan was, like, such a surprise because it is truly so Bollywood. And I mean, it's an excellent movie. Like, let's not forget. I will never forgive them for only just showing a song, though, as the clip.
My heart, it speaks 1,000 words.
Honestly, they probably did because there's a white person in that. And so it is very interesting. And then that kind of brings us back to Homebound, which is not, I would not classify it as a Bollywood film. It's an independent-esque film. I'm not sure about the financing behind it. So I have the shortlist open.
Yes.
Um, oh, I just signed myself up to mispronounce a lot of things.
Stacked.
Stacked. packed. We've only seen a handful of these, but even those are like excellent, excellent films.
Yeah. And I would say
And
I'm already hearing a lot of buzz for, especially It Was Just an Accident and Sentimental Value.
I've
Um,
seen both, and they're both fantastic. There are a lot of directors on this list that are very well respected by specifically Western awards bodies and voting bodies, and um, that just makes it a bit of an uphill battle for Homebound to kind of break through. There are only 5 spots in the actual nominations. Also, Martin Scorsese is a producer, and so like if he actually starts being out there like on the circuit with the team, I don't know like what his capacity to do that is, but like I think that could help push it as more of a contender. But like just reading this list, there were like 6 things that have six of these titles that are definitely the front runners.
I think a lot of the sentiments around COVID specifically and this film being set then would have resonated more strongly with people a few years ago.
Counterpoint, I almost feel like a few years ago people didn't want it. Like they were like, it's too soon. Yeah, so I'm like curious to see like what kind of promotion they're able to do in that time, like what screenings will be able to happen, what shoulders they can rub.
Yeah, and with the film also being on Netflix, it's very accessible to the audience, and there's always like it doesn't hurt to have the audience upswing. And same thing for voters too. Like if you don't have to enter a login and a password or like put in a
That's so
DVD, that
true.
does take away a lot of the friction.
It's interesting to just think about like what are the qualities that get it to be recognized. And I don't know, I do think Homebound has a lot of those like ingredients. It has a real chance. The competition is very, very steep.
At the very least, I hope that more people watch it. You know, this is a great testament to the quality on some level. So whether you're one of the many Academy voters watching this, uh, or have just been curious, we it gets the Promrad stamp of approval, and it's now streaming on Netflix. All hail Netflix!
Oh God. Okay, so how do we vote on this one? How does prom vote?
Yes,
And how
good.
does
And how
Rad?
does Rad vote?
Yes.
Wow.
Oh, I like jammed my finger
Oh,
in a
I
I
thought you
don't know
were
if you
doing
can see that.
like, subscribe, follow, share, comment,
Find us wherever you get your podcasts.
share your location with me.
Thank you. Said, how do I do thumbs up without it showing this like disgusting?
Oh, like that. That's so weird.
I feel like Borat.
Brad gives it 2 thumbs out.